Hey, it's Papa and Grammy, and it's time to do the Grand Canyon North Rim summary, just like we did the South Rim. And I gotta say that once we started looking at the North Rim and our experience and the notes that we took, we found out that we really did like the North Rim better than the South Rim. I know that sounds crazy. The South Rim is much busier than the North Rim. But the South Rim, in our opinion, has better views of the Grand Canyon and more places to go. But the North Rim is very good. There are parts of the North Rim are you go when you first get to it. You're at the main visitor center, and there's a campground there. There's a lodge, and there's an overlook, and then you can drive to two places. One is called Point Imperial, which overlooks the canyon, and it really has beautiful views. And the other one is the Cape Royal, which has pretty views too. So, Grammy, what were some of your positives about the North Rim? What'd you like?
Well, I loved the trees. So we had fir, spruce, ponderosa pine, which when there's a lot of it growing together, it gives off a really fresh smell. And, of course, the aspens. We were there in the spring, so they're all green. Clear blue skies, beautiful breeze, leaves fluttering in the trees, and we had a lot of fun with the hikes we did there, which were mainly on the Woodforce Trail. It was a moderate hike. It was in the forest. It got out to the rim. We picked up a telephone signal from the South Rim there, which was hilarious. And we also biked I guess it was a Forest Service road that we picked up at the entrance parking for Woodforce Trail. So we were able to get some good hiking there, pretty secluded, and some good biking.
Yeah, and for camping, the North Rim is pretty good because you have the Jacobs Lake campground. That's 40 miles north of the Grand Canyon, but there's a campground there and a store, and you can get a good phone signal there. That's about the only place on the North Rim that we could get a good phone signal. We have AT&T. I think Verizon people get better signals out west than AT&T people. So you can camp there. There's also a campground halfway between Jacobs Lake and the North Rim, which is called DeMont Campground. That's U.S. Forest Service. That's a nice, good place to camp too.
Yes.
And then, of course, you can camp at the North Rim near the visitor center. Also, the whole area is just full of U.S. Forest Service roads, and there are dispersed camping spots all over the place. But we had one problem with that, is that our tires on our van were okay as far as the tread, but the tread was getting kind of low. And those Forest Service roads have the hunks of chert all in them from the Kaibab limestone, which is the main strata, and we got 2 tire punctures while we were there. So we didn't have any tire punctures on our bikes when we rode on those
Right.
Forest Service gravel roads at all. So you probably won't have any problem. But if you're going to drive on with your vehicle, make sure you got plenty of tread on your tires.
Well, and also they had just recently regraded those Forest Service roads,
Right.
so it had pulled that chert up more pronounced. And one of the reasons we were on those roads was we wanted to go out to this section where the U.S. Forest Service and the park have worked together to develop mountain biking trails that go along the rim edge at the North Rim. So for mountain bikers, this is a fantastic place to bike. I didn't have the stamina to really bike it, but it's a fantastic place. Now, what we ended up doing was, once we were at DeMont, we would just bike in on those Forest Service roads, and we biked the parts that were fun to bike, and then we tied them off and went hiking in further on our own. So it was great biking on the Forest Service roads, secluded for the most part, beautiful natural environment, and some hiking in even further from those points.
Absolutely. And we found the negatives of the North Rim are it's remote. You have to drive a long way to get there. but if you're going to come into southeast to Utah, to do some camping, you're not too far from the North Rim. Another thing is it doesn't open until like mid-May or
Right.
so because it's pretty high elevation up there, and it can be chilly in the spring.
Yes. Be prepared for cold.
Absolutely. And there's a North Kaibab trail there that goes from the rim down into the canyon. It's always super crowded. It was super crowded in May. It must be just extremely crowded in June too. So we didn't even try to go on that. But there's some really nice hikes, as Grammy was telling you. There's not a drop of water flowing on the North Rim anywhere. It's
Right.
a high plateau. It's dry.
Right.
But it's so high elevation, maybe 9,000 feet, 10,000 feet in areas, that it's cool, and it's very nice. In probably June, it's probably very nice too. So we gotta say, even though on the last video I said we like the South Rim better than the North Rim, we're going back to the North Rim this year, but we're not going back to the South Rim. So once we got to looking at it, we found that we really did like the North Rim. Its seclusion and its solitude, and its biking opportunities, its hiking opportunities are really good. So that's the North Rim summary.
Okay.
Grammy and Papa out.